Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Well, draft week.
It's finally here. It's a national holiday.
You know, you never know. You may find Brock Purdy with the last pick. You never know.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a week. I'm excited. So going into this draft, before we, of course, discuss the other players not named Penn State players, let's talk Penn State guys.
Sure.
What their draft stock is, what you see them doing on the next level, and who we see, I guess, going high in the draft is what everyone also always wants to know. So what better place to start with the guy who's going to go probably top 10 somewhere? Olu, what are you thinking about him going into the NFL? Where do you think he'll shake out?
So I'm on a show in Pittsburgh last Thursday or Friday, and I was asked about Olu. You know, they asked if he played right tackle, and I said no, he was a left tackle here. I said that's what he is. And we talked about pass blocking. I said, look, he didn't even give up a pressure this past year, let alone a sack. I said, arm extension, footwork. I said, it's outstanding. I said, does he need to be a better run blocker? Yes. And then I was asked a question which I'd never heard in my life.
Oh, good or bad?
Bizarre. Okay. That his hand measurement at the draft is that he has small hands, and does that play a role in the fact he's not a great run blocker? I said, is this the overthinking part of the segment?
Yeah, I think so.
It has more to do with, like, it's something he's always had to work hard at is his flexibility.
Yeah.
He's always had to work hard at that. That's where the run blocking part comes in.
Yeah. That amazes me. I'm sorry.
But I sat there and went, what the heck are we talking about here? Jack Ham, we were riding on the bus into practice, and we were on the defensive bus. So Jack was talking to the players about the draft and where the draft was back in his day. He said, played the regular season, we got ready for the bowl game, we played the bowl game, and then now Jack, as a senior, didn't have a bowl game.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't go to a bowl game that year. But he said, you played the bowl game. He said, then you play an all-star game, maybe two, and they had the draft.
Yeah.
And the players were amazed because that, of course, is not what they're used to. Now they're used to bowl game, all-star games, combine, pro day,
individual
workouts, things like that. Okay.
And I just quickly on the hand thing, Jason Kelsey, I believe, talked about it with Lane Johnson, that he was like, I can never be you, Lane, because Lane's just a freak of nature. His hands are gigantic. Jason's like, yeah, my hands are tiny, and the reason I'm so good is because my hands are big enough that doesn't matter. Like, no one's hands are going to be small enough that it's an issue. Like the whole thing with Kenny Pickett. Oh, he has got tiny hands.
Well, quarterback's a little different.
But even then,
quarterback's a little different because the reason they talk about hand size with a quarterback
the ball
is when you're holding the ball out like that and you get hit like that. If you have that vice grip of bigger hands, your odds of not getting rid of the ball are better.
I get
as opposed to smaller hands. If you get hit, it could come right out, and also that's why I get concerned.
I get hand size with quarterbacks, and I get hand size with receivers. That's where it makes sense because receivers, it helps to have bigger hands just for a catch radius.
No catch.
But for an O lineman, how big is Olu? He's what, 6'5", 6'7"? He's gigantic.
Oh, he's huge.
He's huge. His arms are crazy long as is.
Yeah. Yep.
At that point, it doesn't matter how small his hands are unless they're like absurdly tiny.
I'm just saying, I'd never heard this before.
That's wild.
Never had heard this. Like, you have to be kidding me.
If you are a top 10 pick and you're like, we could take Olu, he should be 3rd overall in this draft, but we're going to pass on him because his hands are too small to block as great as he could. You're asking for a reason to not take a player.
Well, no, I mean, there's no problem with asking the question. I mean,
sure.
There's no problem with asking the question. But that told me at this point that it's so deep into the month of April now. And I realize that all these teams are pouring a lot of money into the pick. So they want as much information as possible to help them make the pick. I got that. Right? But you can overthink it. I mean, that's the problem. You can, in fact, you can talk yourself out of picks.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That you regret later. Like, here's one, rack up a tape and watch it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and if you look at it, let's say, I see a problem, you see a problem. If you end up looking at it and you're like, I don't see a problem, we're taking him. Do it. And performance means everything. And again, I completely understand why somebody wants as much information as possible.
Yeah.
Why they want all the measurements. But in the end, can you play the game? Can you help my team win? That's all I need to know here at this point. Everything else is gravy. Right? It's all gravy after that. So Olu he could go to your team, the Saints. He could go to the Jets.
I was going to say, if he ended up as a New Orleans Saint, I would be very happy, is how I'll put it, because we are in need of a tackle because we have one open slot because Trevor Penning has not been great at all. He's been a liability. And then Ryan Ramczyk is apparently, per Dennis Allen, like dying. And so either him, Troy Fontenot out of Washington. It's a very interesting draft this season.
Yeah.
So Olu, of course, is on the O-line. Now let's flip it to a guy who would hypothetically be going at him off the edge. In Chop Robinson is the second guy I want to bring up. Chop, first round pick. He's going to go somewhere in that ballpark. Where he goes, projections have had him really high. Some have had him really low. He's kind of got a weird stock in the draft where like he bounces.
Yeah.
So he could go top 10. He could go 30th. We don't know. But what are you thinking about him translating to the NFL and going to the next level?
He'll translate well to the NFL because he has strength and burst. I look at Jared Verse of Florida, who started his career at Albany, and then went from Albany and transferred to Florida. I look at Verse and I look at Chop, and I see two guys off the edge. It's amazing how we're talking about a left tackle and an edge rusher out of the gate, because those are two critical positions.
Every team needs them.
All right.
No team has enough of them.
You have to have. And Chop is disruptive. People say, well, what about his stats? He disrupted so many plays or funneled somebody towards somebody else because of how quickly he got there. Yeah, he is going to be an excellent NFL player.
Well, it's the same argument people have had for years on like, oh, but Aaron Donald doesn't have enough sacks. Yeah, because he's getting triple teamed every chance the team gets to. Doesn't matter if Chop doesn't have enough sacks if he's getting doubled and causing someone else like an Adisa Isaac, who's also in this draft, to get open and get a sack on the QB. Like, he's never going to be the sack leader on your team if he's getting doubled and hit off the edge by a tight end or a running back. Like, it doesn't matter. So he'll translate well. And speaking of Adisa Isaac, him as well. He's got some good draft stock. I don't know exactly where he's ranked in this draft, but he's looking to be some form of first, probably day 2 pick.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about him going into the NFL alongside Chop? Again,
he brings to the table burst and length off the edge. He has more length than Chop does. He also brings an element to the table that a defensive coordinator is going to love, and that is his ability to drop into pass coverage when you zone blitz. Now, you can zone blitz all you want. Hey, great, somebody drops into coverage, and they have no idea where they're going, what they're doing, but they at least drop somewhere. It's really effective when you have somebody that can drop into pass coverage from a defensive end spot and understands the proper depth of their drop and how to play it. He does. He's a very smart player. And I think he is somebody that plays the run well. He gets to the quarterback, creates hurries, and brings versatility because he has naturally been able to pick that up. And if you're a defensive coordinator, somebody that already is a really good defensive end that then adds that into the mix becomes a valuable player to have.
Yeah. And now going back further on the defense, 3 cornerbacks Penn State's got in the draft. You have Johnny Dixon, Kalen King, Daquan Hardy. I remember going into last season, I believe King was like, people were putting him in the first round.
Yeah.
He has since fallen. ESPN currently has him ranked 250th, and he's the 35th ranked corner.
Yep.
So I guess just across the board on the 3 of them, how are you feeling going into the NFL? Where do you think they may go, and how do you think they'll translate, especially King? Because that has been the most interesting thing for me as just a general fan who did not watch Penn State previously going into this past season, because I didn't watch a lot of Penn State because I went to Syracuse and I didn't get to watch a lot. So now being immersed in this environment, seeing him fall from a first rounder to a probable day 2, day 3 pick is very intriguing to me.
When Joey Porter Jr. was on the other side, people attacked Kalen King, and he played great. His ability to cover, his ability to get the proper leverage. You know, you needed to turn somebody to the sideline, he could do that. Need him to turn to the help, he could do that. This year, people for a period of time didn't throw at him. But the area where he really improved was playing the run. He really improved as a guy that played the run. The disappointing game has to be the Ohio State game with Marvin Harrison. And that's the game I think that sticks out more than anything else that has people going, oh, well, you know, he's not a first round pick. He had a disappointing combine in terms of his 40 time. He dramatically improved that at Pro Day. He will be a really good pro because he'll be able to help you not only at corner, but he'll help you on special teams. And that's it. For the key for him is to get into a camp. Once he gets into a camp, he's going to show his value right away. I'm still big on Kalen King. A lot of people may not be, but I still am because I see a lot there. And I think he played better than people realized this past season. Johnny Dixon had a great season. Really started with the end of the 2022 season, which then dovetailed into the Rose Bowl. And those no Joey Porter Jr., which meant Johnny had got his chance. Johnny played really, really well. That set up 23, where I thought he had an excellent season as a cover corner, stayed away from penalties, and just made plays. Was decent against the run, but I thought played very well in coverage. And then there's Daquan Hardy. Hardy brings versatility to the table. He can play corner, but he's a little small over there. We all know he can play the slot corner. That's a huge plus for him. And he had his best season in 23. That was his best season. How he played corner, how he played the slot corner, it was absolutely his best season. Where he then brings value to a team is that he not only has the ability to return punts, but he can cover kicks. And he's going to bring us, and he might be somebody that becomes valuable to a team, not just on punts, but under the new kickoff rule, he could be valuable in the new kickoff rule with his speed that he brings to the table and his ability to see the field when he does return it. And so I think he'll be valuable in a couple different roles.
And flipping now back to the offensive side, the last player I can kind of really see having some form of draft notice. He's going to be taken somewhere. People are going to see Caden Wallace, again, offensive line.
Theo Johnson.
Theo Johnson as well, tight end.
And Hunter Norzad. I've been asked a lot about Norzad on shows the last couple of weeks. So I'll go through those three guys.
So let's go Theo Johnson first.
Theo Johnson, pure size, ability to catch the ball, too big for a safety to handle, too quick for a linebacker to handle, runs good routes, has improved dramatically as a blocker, which he had to. I mean, Brenton Strange was the entire package over there at tight end, and Theo Johnson picked up on what Brenton Strange did to get himself into the league. So I think he's going to be a valuable player for a lot of people.
And he's currently sitting 6th amongst tight ends, 111th overall, so he'll be a day 2 pick, probable, is what we've got right now.
Hunter Norzad, he is getting a lot of buzz that he would be an early third-day pick. When you're sitting there and you have the versatility, and this is going to go to Caden Wallace as well, when you have the versatility to play multiple positions and you're a third-day pick, that is big because NFL teams normally carry 7 to 8 offensive linemen on game day. They don't carry 10 to 12. They carry 7 or 8 depending on the philosophy of the team. That means you have to have people that can play multiple spots. The fact that he can play both guard spots and center is really important. Powerfully built, especially in the upper body. I thought he snapped the ball well all season long. Also, look, he's a Cornell grad and also a Penn State grad.
Smart dude.
He's right. If I'm having a guy that has to make calls on the offensive line up front, that's the kind of brain power I want calling out plays.
Yeah.
Up front. Caden Wallace unquestionably had his best season in 2023. He quietly went about his business, worked. I don't think a lot of people noticed how well he played this year. He also has the ability to play guard. So, again, we go back to he can play right tackle. He can play guard. He can play left tackle if need be. Better right tackle than left.
But he can do it.
But he can do it, which means that he can make a roster like Pugh did from Syracuse.
Yeah, Justin Pugh's good.
Okay, ended up making the Giants because he could play 4 spots. Well, Caden Wallace can play 4 spots, and that's going to help him. And again, he's coming off his best season.
And I want to remind listeners as well of how
Curtis Jacobs, by the way, being the other guy you need to talk about.
And we'll discuss Jacobs in a second. But in terms of the O-line guys, like just as a casual reminder for people, do you remember where Jason Kelce went in the NFL draft?
I don't know, 3rd round, 4th
6th round, 191st overall.
Right.
You can get value anywhere. If you're a good player like Wallace or Norzad, you can make your name in the NFL. You don't have to be a first-round guy. You don't got to be Joe Alt or Olu. You don't got to go first round. Like, you can go in these later rounds, and if you make your name at camp, you get really good, you show why you are there, it helps, and it's good. And now let's go to linebacker, Curtis Jacobs. How are you feeling about him going into this draft? He's currently slated at 84th overall in the draft, so probably a late day 2 pick, somewhere in the 3rd round range is where he's currently ranked amongst ESPN.
Every down linebacker, rare in this league because of his ability to play the pass. He plays the run very well. When it comes time to blitz, he times it well and he scrapes, which means he's very difficult to pick up because he's right off the hip of the person he is blitzing. And then his ability to drop into coverage is a big plus for him. He ran a really good time. He's at the right weight. And he had talked to me about maybe dropping down a little bit to run the 40. And I said, all I said was, okay. I said, you sure you want to do that? He goes, no, I want to turn in a time. I said, okay. Right, and then he decided to keep the weight, and he still ran a really good time. So he's going to be a really good player. I mean, second day, maybe third day, just good player.
And a player I would, whenever I'm talking linebackers or thinking of linebackers, and I want a player to watch at least. And I know I'm a Saints fan, so I'm biased. Demario Davis. I've said this, I think he's the best linebacker in the NFL. He isn't the fastest. He isn't the strongest. He isn't the quickest, but he does everything really well. He's, again, good at anticipating the blitz, comes at the right times, can cover well. He can do pretty much everything for the Saints, and that is why he is 35 in the NFL still. And if Curtis Jacobs can become a Demario Davis level player, he's going to get paid, he's going to stay in the NFL, and is going to show why he is as good as he is. So overall, all these Penn State guys are probably going to go in the draft. The other guy who in my head I'm thinking of would be Alex Felkins. Kickers are weird. Kickers are like all over the place. The only guy I can think of who's probably going to go somewhere in this draft decently in terms of special teams might be Torrey Taylor, the punter for the Hawkeyes, because he's got his 80-yard leg on punts, and he's like the best punter of all time or something in the end of the college league. So
he's very good.
He's very good.
Let me put it this way. He's very good on a team that needs a punter.
Yes. Someone's going to need him, and someone's going to take him.
But I'm saying, though, like, and that's not a snarky comment on my part about Iowa. Look, it's the way Iowa plays. I mean, Iowa
had a million punts a season.
Iowa wants to play great defense. They need a punter to make sure the defense runs out with a long field, and he does it. Right? You know, and they want to play it close to the vest. They're not going to score a lot of points. And that is the nature of the game.
Yeah.
The way Iowa wants to play it. They want to play it with defense, long field, punter, creating long field. Oh, and by the way, you know, we can still win a game with a minimum amount of points because we're going to be trying to stay away from the big mistake.
Yeah.
Right? So Taylor fit that bill.
Yeah. And I want to, throughout this week leading up to the draft, talk about the different positions before we get to the draft officially Thursday night with round 1. And of course, the place we've got to start positionally, I want to start with the quarterbacks, because the quarterbacks have been such a divisive topic, or such an interesting topic, for a whole host of reasons. So, of course, at the top, you've got Caleb Williams.
The reasons are everybody overthinks.
The reasons are absurd. But you've got him, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy as the first 4 guys. Then after that, Bo Nix is kind of in a weird position. Same with Penix Jr. as Spencer Rattler. Those are the top 7 that have somewhat got themselves tiered up into the top 7 spaces. So let's start, I guess, with Caleb Williams. I mean, he's probably going to go first to the Bears.
Go first. Yeah,
if he doesn't go first to the Bears, I think we'd all be surprised.
He'll go first.
So then beyond him, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy. All of them have had this. J.J. McCarthy stock has gone from like 3rd round to like top 5 pick. And it feels like what we had with Zach Wilson and then what we got with Trey Lance, where these guys got this value that just, for whatever reason, exploded.
Yeah.
And it probably shouldn't have. That Drake May and Jaden Daniels had, like, May had hype going into this draft where he could be a first-round pick.
Yep.
Daniels, similar, was really good with LSU, of course. So those two and McCarthy, like, where do they shake out going into the NFL?
I talked with Jody McDonald from Philadelphia. I think Friday I talked to Jody Mack. And I asked him about the quarterbacks, and he's the one guy I've heard that is a really big Drake May guy. Like, really likes Drake May a lot. And this is the issue I have in evaluating some of these guys. And that is, I honestly don't see a lot of these guys. I saw a lot of Caleb Williams, so that's no problem. Like Daniels, I saw some. Because remember, when I'm broadcasting a game, I'm not watching their game, right? And if I'm on the road, you know, you get on the bus, you go in. Let's say it's a 3:30 kick. You get on the bus 2.5 hours before the game. You go in, which means you're not watching the noon game, maybe a couple of series, right? Then you fly back, and you're back in time for what was Pac-12 After Dark, which means that all I saw were highlights. So I don't see a lot of these guys. But based on what I did see, I would take Daniels second. I think he creates plays. He makes something out of nothing. When you're the second overall pick of the draft, normally the offensive line is not that great, which means you have to make plays on the move. Drake May, I think, would be my 3rd guy off the board. J.J. McCarthy, to me, is in the hall of very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I didn't say awesome, incredible, great. Did not say great.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the hall. He's a very good runner.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very good passer.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not better than very good.
He doesn't have that. Like, Caleb Williams has that, like, he's going to make some absurd play happen. Jaden Daniels is the same.
Right, but to me, they're in different categories like that. Mm-hmm. McCarthy is not in the category with the three guys we talked about, mm-hmm. especially the top two guys, mm-hmm. in my opinion, the top two guys. He is, to me, in the hall of very good. Mm-hmm. He's a very good runner. Mm-hmm. He is a very good passer. Mm-hmm. But he's not better than very good as a runner, and mm-hmm. he's not better than very good as a passer. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, he is a reach.
Mm-hmm. If you put him in the right situation, he'll be a home run.
Is he one of the top 32 players in the draft? No. Is he a first-round pick because he's a quarterback in the draft?
Yes.
Yes. Right. Now, have I ripped him?
Mm-hmm.
I said he's very good.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us would like to be very good.
Yeah, I love that.
But at the same time, he's not good enough to go in there and suddenly elevate everybody mm-hmm. else. He'll be very good playing in the league. And I'll give you one that is a step above very good, but not great. That's Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
He's not. Now, I may be proven wrong over the next 5 years, but mm-hmm. I think that's where he is. Bo Nix, I thought in here played a terrific game for Auburn a couple of years ago. He went to Oregon. I think Kenny Dillingham was his offensive coordinator the first year. He'd been his quarterback coach at Auburn. Then Dillingham took the Arizona State job. They're on probation now. They're so mad at Michigan they put Arizona State on probation. But they got their rings this weekend. Really? Yeah, that's great. And he really thrived out there. Mm-hmm. He has leadership ability, as McCarthy does too, by the way. He has leadership ability. He can make plays with his feet. He's got a little swashbuckler to him. Mm-hmm. And then there's Penix, left-handed. Obviously, I mean, two of his injuries were against Penn State. One his freshman year out in Bloomington when he came in. Like, hey, let's give him a shot. And like, you're watching him, like, first series, like, hey, this guy, he's pretty good, right? Then he gets hurt. And then, of course, the last game he ever played at Indiana was here in Beaver Stadium, and he got hurt when Penn State shut them out 24-0. And he got hurt in the third quarter. And he goes to Washington, where he's with Kalen DeBoer, who had been his offensive coordinator, quarterback coach at Indiana. Then DeBoer took the Fresno State job. Then he took the Washington job. He goes out there with them, and he thrives because he had a really good offensive line. He doesn't move as well as he did when because when he was a freshman, he could really move. Mm-hmm. He could move. But now with all the injuries, he doesn't move as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, he'll still make some plays running. So I'm not one of those like, hey, he makes plays with his legs. I'm like, he's running.
Yeah. He has the ability to run.
Yes. But he really is more of a pocket guy, which the NFL does like. Mm-hmm. And he's accurate throwing the ball. I think he will be a very good quarterback for a team. He will not be great in the league. Mm-hmm. He'll have some great days, and he'll have some mediocre days. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Nix. Same thing with McCarthy. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a bunch of those. It really is important for a quarterback, as prestigious as it is to be the first or second or third overall pick. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem with being the first, second, or third overall pick. The team you're going to is not very good.
Terrible.
And and one of the reasons that they might not be very good is their offensive line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. If you get drafted later.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so let's take somebody who landed excuse me, in a great spot a few years ago. Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He got drafted by a team that was already very good.
Yeah.
All right?
I have one. Brock Purdy.
Well, yeah, I know. I think that's the obvious one. But I'm saying like in the first or second round. I mean, Purdy ended up. I mean, Brady ended up in the 6th round.
Yeah,
But
like you end up with a good O-line. You're not taken with a team that needs a quarterback who can, like, Caleb Williams is going to go to a position where he's now got some talent around him, but he's still going to have to kind of be.
I mean, he's in a little different spot because the Bears are naturally in the number 9 hole.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the trade they made with Carolina with Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they have the first overall pick.
Carolina really shot themselves in the foot here.
Oh, yeah, of course they did. But you're sitting there naturally with the number 9 overall team. So you're a little better off.
Mm-hmm.
Not much. You're still top 10.
Yeah.
Right? And then you got Washington that's not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, after that, the Patriots, who are not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? These quarterbacks, it's going to take a couple of years before they get enough talent around them where maybe their talent level pays off. Yeah. Look at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, terrific coming out of college. Mm-hmm. And I remember the running joke I had when Jacksonville had the first overall pick, and I said there's good news and bad news. The good news is they have all 5 offensive linemen back. The bad news is they're 1-15. They have all 5 offensive linemen back.
Yep.
Right? Well, that's what he had to play behind. Well, then they kind of built up the talent around a little bit. They got to the playoffs, and they were in the position to do it this year. And then down the stretch, they faltered badly.
Yeah.
And didn't make the playoffs when they had the division seemingly all wrapped up with about a month to go. But that's the issue you run into. It took them, 3 years to get him into that spot where they were like very good and a contender? And how many times he got hit, the times he's staring up at the sky, the times he got belted, the times that he's trying to throw and he's having to throw too soon because he's under such pressure he can't make a play. That's the position these guys are going to be in. Brock Purdy, conversely, as the last overall pick, goes to a team that, like, okay, that's Ayuk. That's Deebo Samuel. That's not bad. That's George Kittle. Okay.
Oh, look at that. I have one of the greatest O-linemen in the NFL, if not the best.
I've got Trent Williams
Hall of
as the
Famer.
left tackle. Well, your life becomes exponentially easier because now you're expected to go out, make plays on your own, but you don't have to carry the team, right? You just have to play within your capabilities because you've got so many people with great capabilities around you as opposed to the top 3 picks who are looking around going, why did I leave college? Right?
Yeah, there's one player I think of when I think of a guy who I wish he had gotten an O-line when he played. Andrew Luck. He, forever with Indy, did not have an O-line. That was his thing forever. That's the reason he ended up retiring early, is because he said, I just can't take the abuse I'm getting. My body is not able to handle it.
Yeah.
If he had the O-line that the Colts had like 3 years later with like Quentin Nelson and co, he would have been.
Right.
He was already one of the best QBs in the NFL, and he did it without an O-line.
Yeah, he got to the AFC Championship game.
That was impressive. Imagine you give him an O-line. So sometimes these guys get it, and then it works. Drew Brees, the reason he was good for years is because he had an O-line in front of him. He had good. That Super Bowl winning team had Hall of Famers on the O-line.
Sure.
That's how good you need. Like, you need to have offensive linemen. You get them, it all works real well.
Well, that's why it's going to. Interesting, though, I think there's going to be a run on 2 positions in the first round. The run will be at quarterback, and I think it's going to be more than 4. And wide receiver.
And that's what I want to discuss next.
The wide receiver part, because Harrison, we all know, is terrific. Neighbors from LSU, really good. Adunzie, I'd watched him some on Pac-12 late at night, but then watching him in the Pac-12 championship game and then the playoffs, I really appreciate how good he is. Adunzie is really good. But then you have a couple of other guys that have stepped in there. Worthy ran the 4.21 40, the kid out of Texas. Mitchell, the other kid out of Texas. is obviously really good.
You've got Brian Thomas out of LSU.
Brian Thomas out of LSU, who complimented Neighbors on the other side. I mean, that tells you how bad the LSU defense was.
Though they were putting up like 50 points a week.
Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and those two wideouts. All right, you're not undefeated.
You've then got outside of them. So Thomas is ranked 4th out of the receivers. Mitchell 5th. Xavier Legette 6th out of USC, South Carolina. Ladd McConkey out of Georgia.
McConkey's dependable. He can make big plays, but there's a dependability to Ladd McConkey that teams are going to love about him. He's going to be a guy that, when healthy in the NFL season, is going to probably catch 70 to 80 balls in a season.
He is currently projected to be the 33rd pick, so the first pick in the second round. But it wouldn't be surprising to see him or the guy after him, Xavier Worthy. You've got then rounding out the top 10, Keon Coleman out of Florida State.
Coleman was at Michigan State, played against Penn State. Big receiver. He could also return punts, by the way. Big receiver, excellent hands. Played basketball at Michigan State as well. When they needed help, he walked on.
And the last guy in the top 10, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, is the last guy out of that top 10 group. Again, just a strong position, but it's going to be really intriguing. I think the receivers and quarterbacks are going to come down to who is where and does someone trade up. Because I know, 2 years ago, there was a run on receivers. What happened? Saints traded up to get Olave. The Lions trade up, get Jameson Williams. Like, these guys, as soon as one goes, someone else starts saying...
Yeah, the Giants traded down to get Kadarius Toney. Great move.
But let's go now through the first round in terms of who you think might... The quarterbacks and receivers alone. We're not going to talk. We'll do O-line, running backs, and tight ends tomorrow. Defense Wednesday and Thursday. So, the Bears quarterback, they're taking Caleb Williams. Washington, who'd you say they're going to take?
I would
Drake
take
May?
Daniels, but I think
Daniels?
they'll take Drake May.
And then Patriots third.
Flip.
Same thing. One of them's going 2, one of them's going 3. 4 is the Cardinals.
That they may trade.
Could trade down.
They could trade down to the team that wants McCarthy.
Which is where I think everyone thinks number 6 with the Giants is really interesting because they are a high enough pick. Before we get Dan Jones stuff, they're a high enough pick they could hypothetically trade up. They have, let's say, 6 and Daniels.
At least they have adults
Daniel
running
Jones.
it now.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, Joe Shane's actually pretty smart, and Brian Daboll's smart, but Joe Shane's smart. So
yeah. And the current NFL draft, the most recent projection I can find, has quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, 4. Giants trading up to 4 to get McCarthy. And then at 11, they have the Vikings taking Bo Nix. That means 5 quarterbacks going.
Well, I mean, right now the quarterback for the Vikings is Sam Darnold.
Yeah. So do with that what you will. But those are the guys you currently have sitting quarterback-wise in the first round being selected. Do you think there's a team out there who you view outside of the Giants, if we knock them out of here, who you think would be a reasonable team to trade up and get a quarterback? Because Denver? No Russ. He's gone. Who do they have now at quarterback? Does the world know?
They needed to trade up.
Yeah. They're apparently ready to mortgage the future per generic social media views. So who knows what they traded Jerry Jeudy, I believe.
He went to Cleveland.
So he's in Cleveland. They currently have Jared Stidham, I believe, is their number 1 guy. So,
well, then there's no need to trade up. All right, we're good. I feel great. Yeah. They're taking a quarterback.
So they'll take a quarterback. The Broncos are currently selected 12th.
Yep.
So they could be a Bo Nix team. Or they could trade up to get a Bo Nix if first 4 are gone.
Or they could trade up and get McCarthy.
They could trade up and get McCarthy.
Yeah, the Cardinals are in an interesting spot here.
Yeah. They're sitting at 4 with pretty much the entire world at their hands. They also have 27 in the first round.
Yeah.
So maybe they get rid of 4, get a bunch of picks.
Yep.
And
I think
trades up.
Neighbors will be the second receiver off the board. I think Dunzier will be third
and
off the board. Although I'd be very tempted to take a Dunzier over Neighbors.
I think that one's going to be depending on who you need.
It's just all on your personal taste.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That Marvin Harrison Jr. is going first out of those guys. He's going to be the first My guess is he's the first non-quarterback taken. Is going to be
the feeling
Marvin
is that the season he had last year was not as good as the season before.
Who, Marvin Harrison?
Yeah.
But oh no, everyone knows he's literally the best receiver in this draft.
Let me put it this way. All you have to do is watch a tape of the first 3 quarters of the Georgia national semifinal game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Georgia's defense, and he's over there torching them left and right with C.J. Stroud, I might point out.
And
I mean, that's, he's a heck of a player.
Do you know who's sitting currently at 5? Who's probably going to take him if he's there? The Chargers. I would be thoroughly surprised because they got rid of Keenan Allen. He's now on the Bears.
Yeah, if he goes,
Mike Williams is gone.
Then they'll take Neighbors or Odunze, and the Chargers will take a wideout.
They're taking a wideout at 5. There's a wideout going to be gone at 5. Probably quarterback's gone 1 through 4, and then 6 with the Giants is where it gets a little wild because they could trade up, get someone, could stay there, get someone. Who knows? And then those guys. It's really interesting to look at this draft board. Because as soon as you get down to 5 to like 15, there's any number of things could happen.
It's wide open. I think there are going to be exponentially more trades Thursday night than I think people. I mean, that's just a guess.
Yeah.
I think there are going to be more trades. It's like, whoa. Even Mel's going to get excited.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Mel, slow down.
As soon as one guy goes, as we've said, you're going to see 3 or 4 of them go.
Yeah.
Like you're going to see as soon as one corner goes, you might see 3 or 4 go. O-line,
there's always
same
a run.
thing.
There's always there's going to be a run on offensive linemen. There always happens to be.
Offensive linemen, usually edge rushers and receivers are usually kind of where the runs go. Quarterbacks we know are going 1 through 3, possibly 4.
What's always the biggest issue that you have when you're doing anything in life? It's called panic.
Yes.
Right? So you sit there and go, wait a minute, they took an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
We got to move up. Why? Because you panicked. Okay, great. I got it.
Is there outside of the big quarterbacks available and outside of the big 3 receivers, outside of Harrison, Neighbors, and Odunze, who out of the quarterback or receiver room, maybe not a first-round guy, are you excited to see how they do in the NFL? Is it a guy like a Brendan Rice out of USC, a Tez Walker out of UNC? You've got all the Michigan guys. You've got Jermaine Burton from Alabama. Is there a guy who you like going into the NFL and making a name for himself that maybe not a household name?
I don't know if he's a first-round pick, but Worthy out of Texas. I want to see what he does.
He's probably, I'd guess he goes middle of the first round. He's currently slated, I think. He's slated 34th, but he could go 20.
I mean, a guy like that, I think, would be intriguing to watch.
Mm-hmm. And is there a guy who you personally, not just intriguing to watch, but you think maybe overrated? Let's go the other end of it. A guy you think out of the quarterback receiver room has too much value who you don't get.
JJ McCarthy.
Is it JJ? Okay.
Right. And it's, again, I'm not knocking him. Mm-hmm. He's very good. But is he the 4th overall pick in a draft?
Yeah.
Like, no, he's not. But if you're desperate and you need the position, you're going to go that direction.
Yeah.
I just think he's very good. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to get above very good.
Mm-hmm. And the last position I want to bring up, just because I think it's always fun to discuss, running backs. There's no guy slated to go first round. The highest slated guy is Jonathan Brooks out of Texas at 42.
Right.
So he's going to be a second round guy. Then you've got Trey Benson and Blake Corum following him up. Do you see one of these running backs doing something, whether it's Jawar Jordan, Audric Esteem?
I saw somebody about Blake Corum about being I don't know, 2nd or 3rd round pick. And I said, really? Mm-hmm. Look, Blake Corum will make an NFL roster. Mm-hmm. Right? He'll be drafted. He'll be drafted to make an NFL roster. And he will have a flatline career. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he's not a good receiver out of the backfield. He's not going to help you on kickoff return. He will get tough yards for you between the tackles. Mm-hmm. But if he's playing, he's going to get 5 to 8 touches a game.
Yeah,
running the ball. I mean, that's it's like no offense. I can find 50 guys that can do that.
Yeah,
right? He's a big name. Again, because you had a great college career, and he had a great college career, please. He did.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to have a great NFL career.
Yeah.
I keep looking at him. I don't look at him as an NFL running back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't.
That's why, like, what was it? Jonathan Taylor, when he was in college, you could tell he was going to be an NFL running back. He just had the ability, the spacing. He knew what he was doing.
Right.
Bijan Robinson, different.
Right. My only issue with Taylor was how many carries he had at Wisconsin.
A workhorse.
In other words, did they? Yeah. And Corum had some of that, but he also got hurt at the end of one year or two, and Donovan Edwards stepped in and played really well. But like Bijan Robinson is ultra talented, but unless you're a Robinson or you're a Saquon Barkley or even a Miles Sanders, whatever, like I look at Corum and like to me he's halfway between somebody like Barkley and Boston Scott. Like he's very
could go anywhere.
He's very limited as to what he actually can do. Again, we're talking about next level. I'm not talking about him as a college player.
Yeah.
You want to know how many guys that have been great college players where it didn't translate to the NFL?
Hundreds, thousands.
Right? And I think this is one of those guys. I'm not putting him down as a player.
Yeah.
I just don't see him at the next level as being a difference maker.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's very fair. And now we'll switch gears a little bit. We'll stop the NFL chatter for today because it's a lot.
Okay, I do have this for you.
Oh.
This is actually up your alley.
Ooh.
The Athletic polled NBA players on a variety of topics.
Okay.
So, and they got 141 guys to vote.
They usually get a lot for these things. They usually go through and get a lot of guys.
MVP.
Guessing it's going to be Jokic.
Jokic, 42%. Shea Alexander, 37%. Then Doncic at 10%.
It sounds about right.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, who's the best defender?
I presume it's going to go to Gobert, but
No.
Is it going to be Wembanyama?
Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
15% of the vote. Drew Holiday got 13%.
Then
Lou Dort was third, Herb Jones, then Jaden McDaniels, then Rudy Gobert.
Jeez. There's defense, and the NBA players and the voters have such a differing view on defense in the NBA, which is really funny to look at because you see like Drew Holiday gets rated by all the guys in the NBA and then he never gets defensive player of the year, which doesn't make sense because he's been like Kevin Durant's like, yeah, I want to go against anyone not named him.
If you had to build a roster from scratch, who would you draft first?
Currently in the NFL and the NBA? Wembanyama.
Wembanyama did win at 27.9%, but Jokic was second at 27.2%.
Yeah.
Then Anthony Edwards was third at 10%. Doncic got 8.8%.
Jeez. What else you got for me?
Who's the league's most overrated player?
Not named Trae Young?
He finished third.
Overrated player, Damian Lillard.
Rudy Gobert.
Defensively, makes sense.
13.5%. Jordan Poole second, 8.6%.
He's not highly rated.
Trae Young, 7.4%. Dylan Brooks, 5%. James Harden, 5%.
That makes sense.
Then Bradley Beal.
And I want to discuss the NBA as well.
Who's the league's most underrated player?
Jalen Brunson. Is there a Nick on there somewhere? Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo?
Brunson's not on here.
Gosh. Who is it?
Underrated player, Derek White of the Celtics.
Makes sense.
And that makes total sense. He's tied with Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday was next. He was third. Then Shea Alexander was actually fourth. Then De'Aaron Fox. Brandon Ingram, too. Ingram's a good player.
Yeah. And
league, who in the league would you least like to fight? James Johnson won that one. Steven Adams was second.
I don't want to fight either. Steven Adams notoriously doesn't bench press or anything, but can pick up a guy with his right arm. Just hold him.
Length, good right hand.
Yeah.
All right. Who is the greatest player of all time?
I'm guessing currently the top three you're going to have are going to be a LeBron, Kobe, MJ mix.
MJ's first, 46%. LeBron second, 42%. Kobe, 9.8%.
There we go.
Okay. What is your favorite arena to play in? And this is by a wide margin.
Madison Square Garden.
Yes, 34%. TD Garden in Boston, second, 17%. And then Crypto.com, where the Lakers and Clippers play, 13%. Let's see.
What else they
Least
got?
favorite.
Least favorite arena? Let me go with, I'm trying to think of older arenas in the NBA.
It's not an older arena.
It's not an older arena. Is it in a smaller market? Give me that.
Population-wise, there'd be a top 8 market.
Top 8 market. Philadelphia.
No, actually, they were actually at the bottom. Actually, it was Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, 16%.
Interesting.
Right?
I mean, Detroit fans don't come out to games because their team sucks. But
Spectrum and Center in Charlotte, second. FedEx Forum, Memphis, third. Cap One Arena was fourth.
Washington.
Delta Center, new home of the Salt Lake City, whatever their name is, was fifth. Which current coach, aside from your coach, would you want to play for?
I'm guessing Eric Spoelstra is going to be up there. And Ty Lue.
He's one, and Greg Popovich second, Kerr third, Lewis fourth.
That makes sense.
Michael Malone was fifth.
And real fast, NBA playoffs. We'll quickly blast this out.
Well, let's get which current coach, aside from yours, would you least want to play for?
Tom Thibodeau.
Tibbs. By a wide margin, 47%. Doc Rivers was second at 9%.
Also makes sense. So speaking NBA, real fast, couple minutes left. The first games have all been played for every series. Tonight is the second games for a lot of these people.
Let's overreact.
The Cavs are up 1-0 on the Magic. Knicks are up on the Sixers 1-0. Denver over the Lakers. Minnesota over Phoenix. Milwaukee over Indiana. The Clippers over Dallas. Boston over Miami, and then OKC over New Orleans. Tonight's games, Orlando, Cleveland, Philly, New York, LA, Denver. Give me your picks for these next 3 games.
What letter grade would you give the referees this season?
D-.
3% said A, 27% said B. The big one was 48% said C.
Yeah.
13% D, F 8.3%. Okay, voters who gave an F. This is the quote. Oh, shoot, man. They don't even know if they want us to play or not play, but they're good people. That's a great quote, but they're good people. Okay. First of all, the only thing you care about is the Sixers series.
I mean, it's the Knicks series.
With the Knicks. The Knicks destroyed them on the offensive glass the other day.
And Maxey reportedly is going to be out with an illness for this game, is the current projections.
And Embiid was not playing well when he got hurt.
Came back and then
came
played
back and didn't play well.
Yeah,
but it's the playoffs, and he's got and he's allergic to April and May basketball.
Yep.
Oh no, it's all Simmons and Harden. It's like I don't think so.
So who you taking? Orlando, Cleveland.
Cleveland's playing great.
LA versus Denver.
Denver.
And then the last game, the most expensive, the tickets remaining, by the way, tickets as low as $33 in Cleveland, $132 in Denver, and $247 is the minimum in the Garden. Who you taking? Game 2, Sixers, Knicks.
I'm taking the Celtics.
New York Knicks, it is.
I'm taking the Celtics.
Knicks, it is. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll chat about.
Your team.
We're
By
playing
the way,
well.
Your guy Julius Randle made the overrated list.
It's not surprising at all.
He's in the middle, but he made the list. Brunson actually did not play well the other day.
No, he didn't. But the Knicks, Miles McBride played well.
But this is how you win championships. We always refer to them as the other guys. All right, just as a general term. But when your stars. First of all, Philadelphia is tilting their entire defense toward Brunson, which is the smart thing to do. That's why Nick Nurse is a championship coach. He understands what to do. They're tilting their defense toward Brunson. There's no Randall out there. I got it. Well, that means other people have to step up and then take the pressure off him. And the Knicks did that in the opening game against Philadelphia. They did that, to their credit. But without Maxey, there's a big problem. It's going to put a lot more pressure on a couple of other guys.
It's going to make Kyle Lowry the only guard you have because Melton's out for the series, out for the season, I believe. And then if Maxey's out, Shake is gone.
Shake gone.
Gone.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.